I have read this 960-page document so that you don't have to. Let's talk about Project 2025. This is not a governance plan. It is protection architecture. This entire authoritarian apparatus exists primarily to shield child predators from accountability. Project 2025 has a deeply troubling function, and this isn't just historical cover-up. This is operational security for a live, active system. The Epstein files do not just expose what happened while he was alive. They expose how this system works. The protections, the distractions, the invasions. It's not because they're embarrassed by their past behaviour. It's because this is an ongoing operation. Child trafficking continues. And this is designed to give structural impunity to that network forevermore. There is an apparatus of human trafficking and covert activity that exists and that requires structural enablers. Epstein had private jets and properties in multiple jurisdictions. For decades, he was able to cross borders without the normal scrutiny. His political networks and relationships gave him diplomatic cover and intelligence credentials. The question the files would answer is, who else has that and is still operating? The second thing you need for a trafficking operation is the financial infrastructure. Epstein was good at moving, hiding, and earning money for his clients, we know that. But he did not create offshore finance. He did not create the concept of a shell company. And he is not the only one who uses real estate to hide what's really going on. The third thing that enabled the trafficking is legal protection. There were prosecutors who refused to go after him. There were police who would not investigate him. There were judges who sealed the records. The fourth thing you need to run a trafficking network is recruitment and control infrastructure. How are these men getting access to vulnerable populations? She is not meeting everybody individually. This is an institutional scale operation. Victims come from places like foster care and immigration detention. All of the structural pillars that are required to run a trafficking operation are directly targeted in Project 2025. This document abolishes the key agencies that would have investigated the financial structures enabling the trafficking network. It is not a coincidence that the administration is removing the investigators that could track the financial flows. This plan is not just so that certain actors can avoid accountability. It creates structural impunity under the guise of law and order. Homeland Security Investigations currently handles fraud, smuggling, and financial crimes. Project 2025 redirects this entire department away from anything non-immigration towards immigration enforcement. The stated purpose here is freeing up manpower for ICE deportation efforts. The consequence is that the federal agents who were investigating financial fraud and human trafficking networks are now out going door to door demanding visas from brown people. Great day for anyone in the network, bad day for anyone brown. Project 2025 also eliminates independent investigators. It demands the firing of all 74 independent inspectors general. These are people who investigate fraud, waste, abuse, or misconduct in federal programs. They are there to investigate internal corruption. The verbatim wording from this document is the president should fire these independent investigators and install loyalists instead. This protects anyone who is being investigated for misconduct, including trafficking-related crimes within federal agencies. Again, this is not about historic cover-up. This is permanent reform of the institutional structure. You have federal agencies who are tasked with child welfare, and you have taken away the impartiality of an investigator into corruption in that space forevermore. That gives these predators and future predators even more freedom and access to vulnerable children inside federal state systems. Also, verbatim from this document, terminate any FBI investigations contrary to the national interest. Project 2025 directs the president to appoint a political operative who will review all major active FBI investigations and terminate any deemed contrary to the national interest. This applies directly to the Epstein files. If there were any active FBI investigations into Epstein's network, this political operative has the authority to terminate them. I'll come back to what national interest means, but Americans, as a nation, were you asked to weigh in on that? Whose interests are national. Project 2025 reclassifies over 50,000 civil servants as political appointees. That removes their civil service protections, and it allows for the firing at will for political or ideological reasons. This is already troubling enough when the national interest is being defined by the Heritage Foundation and the Christian far right. But please also remember that the mandate here is structural reform. It might be that you personally currently agree with some of the rhetoric in this, but what if you don't agree with the ideological leanings of the next president? This is for anyone who gets in power, not just Trump. Not just for this season. Long term, it creates incoherence in the continuity of basic government services. If the ideological leanings change every 4 years based on who gets elected, but civil servants can be now fired at will for political reasons, this protects anybody being investigated by any federal agent for anything forever. It created a kill switch on accountability, and Trump has already used it several times. Projekt 2025 also restructures the FBI. The FBI no longer sits under Attorney General supervision. It has been moved under direct presidential appointee. The FBI is now an arm of the presidential will, not an independent enforcement agency. This document calls the FBI bloated, arrogant, and increasingly lawless. That language justifies this neutering. Projekt 2025 destroys the independence of the DOJ. It puts the Department of Justice under the direct control of the President, and it gives the President control of questions of litigation strategy and targeting political enemies with enforcement actions. This protects anyone that the President chooses not to prosecute. DOJ independence exists exactly to prevent this. The idea was that prosecutors should never be forced to drop a case for political reasons. Trump just removed the independence of the Department of Justice. The DOJ is withholding 99% of the Epstein files right now. Under Projekt 2025, any prosecutor attempting to release any files or pursue any cases can be terminated by a presidential order. Projekt 2025 also eliminates financial crime enforcement, abolish the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, abolish the Federal Trade Commission, and then merge the Economic Analysis Bureau, the Census Bureau, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Do you know who else merged all of their statistics agencies? Stalin. When you merge the agencies that measure unemployment, inflation, and economic growth into one office, you are able to control what reality is in the country. Stalin shot census directors who revealed that his famine had killed millions. When one political appointee, not impartial federal agent, is able to control whether unemployment is reported as 4% or 8%, or whether inflation is 2% or 6%, Trump is getting to decide how strong the American economy is, regardless of reality. How can you resist what you don't know? If the government decides that the economy is thriving and trafficking doesn't exist, and you cannot access independent data that proves otherwise, the regime becomes unfalsifiable. It allows him to manufacture reality.